morning, everybody. We will overcome all the technical problems because I think social economy is above all problems. We will find the solutions. I'm delighted to be with you, and I'm delighted to open the European Social Economy Region's annual event on behalf of the European Commission. This is my first time with the ESR community, and I'm happy to see some of the members around, although I would have liked to meet you in person. But I'm also happy to welcome participants of the European Social Economy Summit, and I hope that you will all get a taste of the dynamism of the ESR community in the next 1.5 hours. Indeed, since 2018, more than 100 cities and regions have joined the ESR community. Thanks to the events and meetings they organize, they have raised awareness about social economy in many parts of Europe. And indeed, more than 30 regions and cities participated in the last call for expression of interest we launched last year in 2020. And looking at the last months and last year, indeed, we see that it was a particularly difficult and challenging year for organizing events and peer learning activities due to the COVID pandemic. But many of you have adapted quickly, and you organized local events in a virtual mode and in a successful manner. Your creativity did not stop you, indeed, from trying to raise the profile of social economy among your regional and local stakeholders. So thank you for this commitment. Now, the pandemic taught us one more thing, or actually it reminded us once more how important social economy is for local communities and for delivering sustainable and inclusive growth, the kind of growth perhaps we want to see more and more in the future. And actually we know, and I think those in this virtual room are convinced of the fact that social enterprises are at the forefront of solutions and can make a real social impact. But I also think you're very much aware of the fact that the very many social economy organizations and enterprises are also struggling with numerous challenges, whether it's about access to adapted funding, whether it's about the ability to scale up and access markets, skills shortages and innovation capacity, the lack of recognition in public policies, but also among traditional business and industrial sectors. And these are the reasons why we at the European Commission actually are supporting the ESR community, and we would like to see it grow further in the future. So let me announce here that we will launch a new call for proposals to support social economy missions for community resilience this year. The focus would be on local green deals. We will have a financial envelope of 4 million euros. And we're currently preparing the call for proposals, which will be published in the fall, most likely right after the summer break. So your antennas up and open, and I hope you will keep an eye for that. So today's event is only the beginning, we hope. And we hope that it will give you the opportunity to share your achievements and good practices with the help of Jonathan and the active participation of all participants. We would also hope that it will encourage public policy makers and private actors across Europe to enable social economy play its part in the sustainable recovery and the twin green and digital transition we would like to see in our economies and our societies. And it would also make you aware of the opportunities for social economy at European level, whether we're talking about funding opportunities. And I do hope that you talk about the Recovery and Resilience Facility and the plans that are in preparation by the member states. You should be discussing about these with your national governments and the regional governments. And also opportunities under the new EU budget for the next 7 years until 2027, whether it's about cohesion policy, again in the hands of the member states and the regions, Invest EU, keep an eye not only on the social window, but also the SME window, but also opportunities on a smaller scale under the Single Market Programme and the COSME pillar supporting SMEs. Now, when it comes to policy initiatives, I think that would be also useful, and I know that your discussion will take you there as well. It would be interesting just to flag maybe 2 policy initiatives that can help build political momentum for social economy. One is the European Social Economy Action Plan, and I know that we have heard a lot about it in the last months. And the other one is the updated industrial strategy which was updated only a few weeks ago in the beginning of the month. Let me flag perhaps the new approach under the updated industrial strategy, which is based on 14 industrial ecosystems that we have identified, among them an ecosystem focusing in particular on proximity and social economy. So through this ecosystem, we will continue to engage with industry, SMEs, public authorities, social economy stakeholders to help social economy and social entrepreneurship grow. Our objective is to shape a tailored toolbox looking at enablers and bottlenecks, from skills to investment to access to funding, but also barriers in the single market, which block perhaps social economy actors to work across borders. So this is important. We want to make sure that we would like to strengthen social economy within the EU industrial landscape through this work on the proximity and social economy ecosystem. And we feel that this is important for the almost 3 million enterprises and organizations active in social economy, and for over 13.6 million jobs in social economy, which were hard hit by the COVID pandemic. Of course, the European Action Plan for Social Economy will be another opportunity to build political momentum at European level around social economy and to raise awareness and visibility. This is expected towards the end of the year. So your discussions today at this session, but also during the summit today and tomorrow, will feed into the preparation of the action plan on social economy, but also into future initiatives under industrial policy. As you see, in Brussels at the European level, we try to play our part. But the center of gravity for social economy and the development of social enterprises is rather at the national level, the regional and the local level. So that's why we feel, and we will continue repeating that it is essential to see public policies at all levels enabling social economy and social entrepreneurship. And it's also essential that partners, public but also private partners, seize current and upcoming opportunities. And we hope that this session and also the other events during the European Social Economy Summit will give you those opportunities, will help you identify future partners so that you can work together on social economy in your region, across Europe, and also beyond. So I would like to leave you with this message. Thank you for your patience and your attention. And now I hope that the real work will start. Over to you, Jordi.
Thank you so much, Anna, and some very important messages there, thinking of the new action plan, thinking about that call for ESSA coming up soon, and the kind of wider responsibility I think we all have to try and be able to get the social economy properly promoted in policy at national, regional and local level. And that in many ways is what ESSA is all about. It's a bottom-up approach. Now we're going to be looking at the potential for the social economy for a sustainable recovery and growth during this first half of our workshop. And we're going to do that by looking at 3 different topic areas. The first of which is about easier access to public procurement procedures. We know that there's huge potential to lever the resource that goes through public procurement. It's about 14% of GDP in Europe. That's an awful lot of money. Back in 2014, the procurement directive created some real opportunities. It gave a legal basis for taking account of social considerations, and the social economy is ideally placed to deliver on blending the social with the economic. But how does this actually play out? We know that there are some challenges to overcome, particularly some of the cultural barriers in the way that people interpret the procurement rules. So how can procurement be a really good and important tool to support recovery in the growth from COVID? And we are going to start with looking at a case from one of the ESSA members. And I'm really delighted to introduce Angelika Marning, who's a development consultant in the Lelonek in Central region of Denmark. And they've been working on socially responsible procurement. So over to you, Angelika.
Angelika, you are muted.
Angelika, I think your microphone is off at the moment. Can we try and get that going? Apologies to everyone. We've been having some technical problems this morning, but hopefully we can do this. I can see you, Angelika, but I can't hear you.
Oh, now it works. I wasn't allowed to do it, but anyway, thank you very much, Jonathan, and welcome to you all this morning from Denmark. I will be talking to you a little bit about our project called Rumlimit here in Denmark in the central region. We are running a European Social Fund project, and it has been financed also by regional authorities and also local municipalities. And we've been running since 2016, and we are continuing until the end of the year. So we've had a few years to actually work on these issues. Rumlimit has one primary goal, which is to increase the amount of inclusion from people outside of the labor market into the labor market. And we develop a lot of new pathways. Basically, we try and work in 5 different areas. One of them is working directly with citizens in kind of job-oriented activities to get disadvantaged groups of unemployed into the labor market. We also work on increasing the amount of social inclusion in ordinary companies, as well as working very specifically with social economy enterprises and strengthening the entire social economy sector. We also try and highlight circular economy's potential for social inclusion. And then finally, we look at how public procurement and social buying, so-called, can also help some people from the edges of the labor market into the labor force. So these are the 5 areas. And as Jonathan said, we've been part of the ESER community in 2020. And we are running a network of social economy enterprises here in the region with about a little over 100 participants in the network. And with our primary activities, we have tried to strengthen the ability for social economy enterprises to access public procurement. So this is what I will be speaking about today. And as Jonathan said already, with the law that came into act in 2016, a lot of possibilities came for social economy enterprises. For instance, reserved contracts, and you could also take particular attention to socially responsible companies in your priorities in your procurement. So it enabled actually and allowed for a unique window of opportunity for social economy enterprises. And in Denmark specifically, we've actually seen a growth in the social economy sector in general, and we've had in the past years this development of a so-called state-controlled trademark. We call it RSV, which is a registration system for social economy enterprises, which is a really a similar thing to the fair trade brand or the organic brand. And so this actually gives also a unique opportunity because you can distinguish the social economy actors between the just CSR and the socially responsible companies, and then you have the social economy enterprises on one hand. And then in general, there's just been a very strong political focus on the social labor inclusion potential of social economy enterprises, but also how municipalities and public procurement can be a way of engaging people into employment directly and very specifically. However, with all these opportunities, that actually created a very unique window of opportunity, not only for social economy enterprises, but also for unemployed people in general. We find a lot of challenges. Among them are a very highly centralized procurement system. In Denmark, municipalities struggle very much to get out of centralized agreements and centralized purchasing methods. There's also a general lack of knowledge of business cases. So like, is it actually worth the extra effort to work with social economy enterprises? And also generally just a lack of knowledge of what types of social economy enterprises exist, especially in the local area, but in general. And also a very complicated research into what they actually could deliver. So even what types of products or services they produce. On the social economy enterprise perspective, they just don't speak procurement languages. So for this match to actually happen and for these two parties to come together, we needed to develop something new. And that's what we did. So basically we developed a common platform digitally where we would facilitate this meeting. So we would provide all the necessary information on what the social economy enterprises actually could provide. And then we have kind of targeted municipalities very much. And also during our ESSER events throughout the year, we've tried to engage social economy enterprises with, information on what types of knowledge was needed for social economy to actually succeed in public procurement. So I will show you a small video of our social economy platform and then briefly either answer questions or tell you a little bit more about it if I have time. So I hope you see the video now.
Ane Larsen er rengøringsassistent. Hun er egentlig uddannet folkeskolelærer, har i 30 år lidt af angst, og for 2 år siden fik hun en blodprop i hjertet.
Det kostede det lærerjob, jeg havde.
Men for godt 2 måneder siden kom hun tilbage på arbejdsmarkedet.
Jeg vil ikke bytte med en førtidspension.
Ane Larsen arbejder 4 timer om ugen her hos virksomheden Flexvirk i Randers.
Jeg er glad for de dage, at jeg arbejder.
Flexvirk er en af de mange virksomheder, du kan finde på den socialøkonomiske leverandørportal.
Vi arbejder fuldstændig på markedsvilkår. Vores formål er bare, at vi rigtig gerne vil hjælpe flest mulige, der står uden for arbejdsmarkedet, ind på arbejdsmarkedet, i et job, som de kan holde til og blive ved med at være i.
På den socialøkonomiske leverandørportal samler vi de socialøkonomiske virksomheder i Region Midtjylland. Med et par klik kan man hurtigt finde frem til lige netop den virksomhed, der kan levere den vare eller service, der er brug for.
De kan lave honning, eller sko, eller bruge bænkesæt, alle mulige produkter. De kan også levere en service og en ydelse, f.eks. havearbejde eller rengøring. Der findes i regionen en bred vifte af socialøkonomiske virksomheder.
Den socialøkonomiske leverandørportal er et nyttigt værktøj for alle, der har brug for at danne sig et hurtigt overblik. Portalen er samtidig en garanti for, at virksomhederne lever op til kravene om social bæredygtighed.
Det vil sige, at hvis man placerer en ordre hos de her virksomheder, så hjælper man ikke bare den enkelte virksomhed, men man hjælper faktisk også nogle af de mest udsatte mennesker i vores samfund.
Portalen er udviklet her hos Special Minds.
Det har været en fantastisk oplevelse.
En socialøkonomisk virksomhed, der blandt andet ansætter folk med handicap.
Jeg havde jo nogle folk, som er rigtig skabt til det, selvom de måske ikke lige har uddannelsespapirerne, der siger det. Som Anton for eksempel, han er en af de rigtig gode af slagsen. Også når man sammenligner folk, der har en formel uddannelse inden for det.
Her hos Flexvirk ser man det som en klar fordel at være en del af den socialøkonomiske leverandørportal. Her har man i øjeblikket ansat 37 medarbejdere i flexjob eller skånejob.
Vi håber jo på, at kommunerne får øje på, at vi faktisk er en virksomhed, som kan levere rigtig mange forskellige serviceydelser til forskellige af deres afdelinger. Så de kommer til at bruge os, så vi kan ansætte flere, der er på kanten af arbejdsmarkedet.
Den socialøkonomiske leverandørportal er den første portal i Danmark, som har gjort det til sit speciale.
Forskellige af deres afdelinger, så de kommer til at bruge os, så vi kan ansætte flere, der er på kanten af arbejdsmarkedet.
Den socialøkonomiske leverandørportal er den første portal i Danmark, som har gjort det til sit speciale at skabe kontakt mellem socialøkonomiske virksomheder og deres kunder.
Det gør det rigtig nemt i en travl hverdag, og det er det eneste og første overblik over, hvilke produkter og ydelser de her type virksomheder faktisk leverer. Den viden findes ikke andre steder.
Vil du gøre en forskel, gå ind på Rumlige Midt og find den socialøkonomiske leverandørportal.
All right, I see that some people weren't able to see the subtitles. I am very sorry about that. Jonathan, do I have 2 more minutes, or is that time up?
Well, we are running rather behind time. So
I know.
I think probably what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask our other speaker to speak next, and then hopefully we'll have some time for some questions. And if people are curious about some of the things that we saw on the video, some great social enterprises doing some brilliant work there. So I would like to introduce now our second speaker in this area, Anna Lupi, who's legal officer at the European Commission in DG GROW, with a responsibility for public procurement. So over to you, Anna.
Hello, thanks, Jonathan, and good morning, everyone. Really nice to participate today. I'd really like to pick later maybe on what Angelika was saying, because I think we come more or less from the same view of things on the ground. I work specifically on the topic of socially responsible procurement for the Commission, and as Angelika was saying, the 2014 directives really opened up quite a lot of possibilities to use public procurement as a policy tool, actually, to pursue social objectives. And we have been working really hard to encourage public buyers to focus more on quality aspects of public procurement rather than price, which is a bit the traditional way of doing things in procurement. And it's quite clear for us now that with the COVID crisis and the green transition, the level of ambition in using procurement to pursue policy goals has to rise. And in particular, we are seeing a lot of the social issues that pre-existed the crisis have, in some cases, worsened with the crisis. So we will try to encourage really public authorities to use their resources to the fullest, also through a more efficient use of public procurement. But it's essential to make public buyers also see that they can find a good partner in social businesses, and it's also it also takes a lot of work to make social businesses get closer to public procurement, which is not always the simplest exercise for them, of course. We are very much aware of this, and this is why we've started back in 2018 to tackle this problem by going to the member states. We had a specific project which covered 15 different countries in the EU, where we organized very targeted events in the local language and with local public buyers and social economy enterprises, and where we were trying to essentially disseminate knowledge on how to use social criteria in public procurement. And really, when we talk about social criteria, this means the possibility of using different techniques to which are in line with EU law and with national legislation to pursue social objectives, and also to facilitate participation of social businesses in public procurement. So these events, they related very closely to the idea of using social criteria, but they also went a little bit beyond by explaining, for example, that there are techniques that allow for increased participation of smaller businesses, for example, such as division into lots of contracts. And it was a really eye-opening experience for us, because it confirmed largely what also Angelika was saying, that these are two worlds that do not necessarily always meet, and there is a great need to raise awareness both in public administrations and social businesses on certain procurement techniques. Last year we also had a project which was targeting essentially it was a collection of good practices that we carried out with the colleagues in EASME and a partner contractor. They helped us identify a large number of good practices in the field of socially responsible public procurement. And we also made some promotional material, because we developed a full-blown social media campaign and some promotional videos. I can share the links later if you're interested. And I'm coming to the plat de résistance of today in a way, because I am pleased to announce that we are adopting today guidance on socially responsible public procurement. It's a completely new instrument. It's called Buying Social, as the previous Commission guidance on socially responsible procurement, but it's quite different from what it used to be, and it's really a practical guidance that is intended for public buyers, but written in simple language, so that it's easy to understand and disseminate for any stakeholder. Obviously, it's not a policy paper. It really gives concrete indications on how to integrate social considerations throughout the procurement process, and it covers as many social objectives as we were able to identify. So there are the more traditional ones, which of course relate to fair working conditions and inclusion in the job market, but also accessibility, human rights due diligence, the provision of high quality services, and of course there's also great attention devoted to providing more opportunities for social businesses to participate as contractors, as subcontractors, as a part of a consortium, and to become partners of public administrations, essentially through public procurement. Here in the slide you have an idea of the content of the guide, but it's really quite straightforward. I mean, it's really aimed to cover a bit of organizational strategy to understand really, let's say, what it takes as an organization, as a public administration, to integrate social considerations in procurement, and and then it basically covers the whole procurement process, and it's also complemented with many case studies from EU public buyers. And this is actually something I also want to mention. It's not all difficult and challenging. There are many public buyers across the EU who are already integrating social considerations, have been doing that for a long time, and they are really skilled in doing that. And there are already many social businesses which have had the possibility to work with them as partners. That being said, with today and then today's adoption, our work doesn't stop. We know that there's still a lot of awareness raising to do, and we are planning to launch more dissemination activities, in particular around the guidance and its content. So please stay tuned. And thank you very much for your attention. And of course, if you have questions, I'll be delighted to reply.
Thank you, Anna. And isn't that fantastic news that the new Buying Social Guide is ready? I think that's going to be a really powerful and important resource for people locally, because so often people are very worried about breaking the rules or doing something new. And so we just get this inertia and we don't use the possibilities that exist that are there for us. And so I think that's going to be great. Please put your questions through the chat. We'll try and take a couple. We are running late, but I think it's really important that we do. I've got a question to start with, actually, for Angelika. If you're still with us, Angelika, and it's about the challenges from scaling from a sort of regional project. And I know that in many places, the public authorities have big companies running the sort of procurement platforms. And how do you actually screen out or to be able to differentiate the social economy organizations from private ones? What are the kind of challenges around that, Angelika?
You can hear me. Can you hear me? I can't turn on my camera this time.
Okay, but we can hear you. You can just tell us.
Awesome. I will just tell you. So you were asking about the RSV, so the trademark, and how you can distinguish between the different social economy enterprises and the not registrations.
Yeah, that's right, and especially in the context of many of the kind of platforms for procurement being run by large businesses.
So basically, on our platform, we have decided to run with only the social economy enterprises that are registered. And this is because of a consideration for public procurement officers. So basically, now the camera works. Awesome. Basically, the procurement officers need some form of guarantee because they are unable to actually go out and control. They have no capacity to go out and see, well, wherein does your social responsibility lie? So they need this kind of blue stamp from a state-controlled initiative or system. So that's why in our portal, we have only worked with the registered ones. And there are 5 overall criteria in order to register. And this is something that each social economy enterprise can attempt to do. So they can enter into the company registration and then tick a few boxes and say, well, we want to become a registered one. And then they have to fulfill 5 different criteria, including transparency, including where the social responsibility lies, and documentation on that, including reinvesting in, the general definition of social economy enterprises. So that's what we work with. And the one challenge is that procurement officers often work with these different platforms, and getting the right kind of information onto these platforms is a challenge. So at the moment, where we see that our portal is successful is when the public procurement officers actually want to buy from a socially responsible company, and they make it as a part of their work tasks to actually go in and check. So is there a social economy enterprise that could deliver this type of product or service that we need? And then so the research comes on behalf of the procurement officers that then check the platform and try and match, does our procurement need fit a social economy deliverance, basically. Does that answer?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Angelika. Now, I've got a couple of other questions. Anna, the guide, can you tell us when it's actually going to be ready, when people can, get hold of it, and how they'll be able to do that?
So as I said, it's going to be adopted today. So hopefully later today it will be available on our website. It always takes a bit of tinkering around with the web pages, but hopefully later today it will be already online.
That's fantastic. And one more question that's kind of come up in the chat is this idea about the social economy being attacked for unfair competition when there are kind of public authorities that are looking to put social considerations in perhaps in a reserve contract or in some other way, and how what's the kind of response to that? How do you deal with that in Denmark, Angelika?
I read it also in the chat, and I think it's, well, this is one of the things that the European legislation just allowed, and it gave a lot of opportunities to actually try and work a lot more with green and climate considerations, but also with social considerations aside from just the hardcore price and product and quality considerations that used to be the primary, underlining thing for procurement. And I think it's a good thing, and I think it's healthy also that the ordinary companies would complain and say, "Hey, what's up? Why are we being disadvantaged now?" But they're not, being prevented from taking a lot of social responsibility. And we see in Denmark a lot of good cases where public procurement practices have changed a little bit, and where the priority of social responsibility has actually led other companies to say, well, okay, if the municipality is looking in this direction now, we actually need to opt and develop our social responsibility more so that we can also compete. So I think the trickle down effect of municipalities going ahead and saying, well, we want green solutions, we want social, socially responsible solutions, then you can actually achieve a lot. And if it's not the taxpayers' money is being, used for this, whose money? I mean, who's going to push for this type of development if not the public, in my opinion?
Absolutely, and I think many of us would agree with that. Now, we had a few technical problems at the start, and so we are kind of running very tight for time. So I am going to have to move it on now. I would like to thank you both so much, but do stay around. You might have some questions or want to contribute as part of our kind of next session. We're moving on now to look at awareness raising on the social economy. We know that lack of awareness of social economy business models has been identified as a major barrier for growth. People just don't understand. Very often you've got a mindset it's about business or it's just about doing something social. And really there's this whole range of business models that can meet needs in different ways. So we're going to look at a few different examples now. And we're going to start with Polina Nyukhina from the city of Kiev in the Ukraine. And thank you very much for joining us, Polina. We're going to hear a little bit about the work that you've done first of all, and then we're going to move to Valencia after that. So over to you, Polina.
Yeah, first of all, let me thank you for inviting me. It's a honor to share Ukrainian experience with European community. And let me briefly explain to you the general Ukrainian context pictured on the first slide. We are a post-Soviet country with a strong background in a command economy and state regulation. That is why the transition to a post-command economy is a bit challenging and lasting for Ukraine. We still lack of some special legislation and the general public awareness on social entrepreneurship sphere. Nevertheless, Ukrainian society and the non-governmental sector are strongly European-oriented and struggling to be a vital part of a world economy process. European support in the integration process playing an essential role for Ukraine. And the project named Social Business in UA, in a second slide, please, was funded. Could you move to the second slide? Or no? Or could I do it? Oh, okay. I did it for myself. And the project named Social Business in UA, which is funded by European Union in Ukraine, could be an example of building an ecosystem and raising awareness on social economy among the broad public. The project social business in UA have been implemented for 37 months. I mean, from spring 2018 till fall 2020. And in a period of pandemic as well, we combined education and advocacy components to share an idea of social entrepreneurship in Ukraine. What does it practically mean? Firstly, the project created syllabus and toolkit for teachers to help them piloting a learning course on social entrepreneurship. 3 universities from different Ukrainian regions supported the project and successfully implemented a learning course. So I would say we have a fruitful beginning of building a formal education in the area of social economy due to the project. And in 2021, in Ukraine, we already have a development project on school social entrepreneurship funded by Germany. So formal education seems to be lasting and sustainable in this field. Non-formal education as a part of education component is such essential part of society development in Ukraine, I would say. That is why we have provided a set of learning funnels for social economy ideas, from crowded garage ideas through the 2 days hackathons and to 3 models accelerators for selected participants. And as a result, beneficiaries got a business model and a crash test for their social ideas from experts and professionals. And the next component, like advocacy campaign, was necessary because of the absence of a legal definition for social entrepreneurship in Ukrainian legislation. And to be honest, we still have no such definition. Instead, we have 2 policy papers, Green and White Book on social entrepreneurship, which are written and presented among authorities, national and local as well, by project experts. These books, these policy papers are the beginning, it's my opinion, of a state strategy in supporting the social economy in Ukraine. So what? Our results are on the 3rd slide. While implementing the project's educational and advocacy components, we have touched a broad audience all over the country. There were, firstly, particularly entrepreneurs who spread information among their customers and partners. Also, national and local authorities recognize a new phenomenon and the needs of social entrepreneurs. And the formal education component of the project allowed us to engage younger people. And more, collaboration with other European projects in Ukraine, like Euro for Bees and Moving Together, allowed us to be more visible and to use more communication channels to reach a wide public. Also, we produced 20 video clips for new created entrepreneurs to promote them among their customers and local authorities as well. And 50 long reads to explain values of social economy to Ukrainian society. As a result, we have 10 times more mentions on social economy and social entrepreneurship in the Ukrainian media space. I mean, from 641 in 2017 up to 7,000 in 2020. I would say that in this year, in 2021, Ukrainians are aware of social economy. It is a trend among civil society organizations to create social enterprises, or at least to teach how to create social enterprise. But we're still waiting for support from the state. And To finish my short speech, let me thank OSR community for promoting social economy as a new economy. Ukraine is proud to be a part of your community. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Polina. That was really heartening to hear from going from this sort of almost zero base in coming from that post-Soviet context to 10 times more awareness in just 3 years. So that's great. What we're going to do next is that we're going to, before we have questions, we're going to move on and hear our other case, which is from the region of Valencia in Spain. I'm personally particularly excited about this, as I worked in the social economy in Valencia for 5 years in the 1990s for the Federation of Worker Cooperatives there. So we're going to hear from Jordi Sebastià Talavera from the Valencian regional government in their development agency IVACE, and from Emili Altur, who is chief executive of the Nova Terra Foundation, who've been doing some fantastic work helping people at risk of social exclusion to get work or set up cooperatives. And they've also developed a special project in relation to opportunities for women. So I'm going to hand over now to Jordi. Over to you.
Hello, nice to meet you. This is it's a real pleasure to have this opportunity to share some of our experiences with all the people from the ESSER net. I am the head of external relations from IVACE. If I translate directly, IVACE is the Valencian Institute for Business Competitiveness, but in fact we are a regional development agency. And our goal is to improve competitiveness of companies, but we based this competitiveness in 3 very clear factors, which are, first of all, innovation and digitalization, then sustainability, and of course, social responsibility. There is no economy without social impact, and we very clearly know that social economy is the best way to socialize the benefits of companies, cooperatives, and other. And because of that, in this very special moment, which is we have been suffering, we are still suffering the COVID-19 pandemic, and for the recovery, for us, for the Valencian government, social economy must be a base, must be one of the key points. Because of that, we are going to enhance our contribution and our relations with other regional development agencies in the ESSER community. And it was very important for us to show that we have in the Valencian community, in the Valencian region, a lot of experiences in the social economy, which will be very important for this recovery. One of them is that of Nova Terra Foundation, and my colleague Emili Altur is going to explain you some of the projects and the way of working. So it's a pleasure to give the floor to my colleague Emili. Thank you very much for all the people, and I think it's a desire. We all wish to meet personally. I'm sure that not very far away in the time, the next meeting, we could just know us personally and to hack one another and to have a better conference. But thank you very much for the technicians, because connection is very good and it's very difficult to organize these virtual meetings. Thank you very much, and I give the floor to Emili.
Hello, Emili. Are you able to join us? Fantastic. Over to you.
The microphone is closed. Can you please unmute yourself?
Sorry, Emili, you're on mute. If you can switch on your microphone, please.
Now. Okay. I'm sorry. Bye. Good morning from Spain, from Valencia, Spain too. Nice to meet you, and I'm so happy to be here. My name is Emilio, like Jordi say, and I am the manager of the CEO of the Novaterra Foundation. I want to start my exposition answering a question. What is the Novaterra project, the Novaterra Foundation? Our leitmotif is Novaterra Foundation, more than a job, transforming realities one by one. This is the story of a project that was born almost 30 years ago, that was born to transform reality of life one by one. And it was born and continues to grow to make it clear that a dream of solidarity can become a reality with the solidarity of more and more people. Novaterra Foundation is a civil initiative of a people and entities that fight against poverty and social exclusion in our society in Valencia, supporting the most disadvantaged people through the training and job placement for their promotion and full integration into society. Our purpose is social inclusion for employment, which these inputs. 1. We are organized civil society of entities and people. We consider that the responsibility is not only the state of the public administration. We are all responsibility for everyone. 2. We have full autonomy and independence because we don't depend on any public administration, nor are we simple managers of public subsidies, but we work with the public powers and politicians to coordinate actions with the social initiative that seeks effectiveness and efficiency. 3. We urge companies, the civil society, public administrations, and entities of all kinds to develop their corporate social responsibility through a responsible public contracting. Or route 4. We are still a small reality, which is growing with prudence and ambition, and which addresses both the territorial implementation and the desire to combine a social action with the generation of social impact companies. We are in more cities in the Valencia region. 5. The Sustainable Development Goals are our compass. 6. We work with the business world on a win-win approach. 7. We generate and consolidate a wide network of collaborating companies. We create alliances with companies to attract specific entrepreneurs from the territory to social action in a win-win-win approach. 8. We are an experience of unity. The foundation hired government body is made up of more than 16 social action entities and more than 14 individual persons. 9. Novaterra has a social purpose in the medium and long term. 10. At Novaterra, together with the board of high professionals, we work with a large group of volunteers. 11. At Novaterra, we act in the micro and in the concrete, but we value reflection and evaluation on practice to set up models and make them transferable. And for this, we call on the academy, university for study, research, and political proposals, insertions, company laws, accompanying workers, etc. 12. We don't just want to do things and serve specific people, but we intend to raise awareness and develop sensitivity in the social fabric, public presence, proposals, and complaints, monthly publication in our local newspapers, and etc. We have some central ideas. It's not true that nothing can be done. 1. The civil initiative is creative, agile, and generates solutions that vertebrate society. Our formula for social inclusion through employment, a solid professional team, a system with almost 13 years of experience. The journey to dignity is our route. We develop process in the form of personalized routes because the 400 or 500 people years provide to us by the public social service and organizations that know us. Our level of achievements in 2018 and 2019, out of 916 users, 570 found a job, 54%, which a program coordinated with the Valencian Public Administration for 8 months of 500 users, 252 found employment. And in 2020, in the full pandemic time, the year, out of 615 users, 205 found a job. A new challenge, create a company from a social entity. In addition to training for a trade or a job, it's necessary to generate a work culture, consolidate positive work habits, and more. We need to generate and consolidate work habits, and that is not done but with a course where these things are explained, but requires practice, training, and repetition of tasks until they are internalized and assumed by the person. And that is why we become entrepreneurs. We create our own company, social enterprise for insertions, companies in which these peoples were hired for the period necessary to acquire and consolidate those habits that they lack. The fact that we have company is really an excellent credentials for companies that receive people who have trained with us and who are the recipients of our works. Development on the entrepreneurships, which microcredits for women in collaboration with a local saving bank, Caixa Popular, is a good experience. Consequence that the travel that Mohamed Junut Nobel Prize received in a foundation, Nova Terra Foundation in 2018. Development of the entrepreneurships with the creation of an entity whose name is the promoter, together with companies implanted in the territory, whose purpose is to create triple impact companies: economy impact, social impact, and environment impact. If you can see the slides, in these slides, in the first slides, who name is Proyectos Nova Terra Project 3 Impact, here show the principal activities to the foundation. In the second, whose name is the promoter, is the new company that we want to create, which the participation of big companies of the Valencia region. And the fourth slide is the experience with the local bank, Caixa Popular, consequence that the visit of Mohamed Junut's Nobel Prize. And finally, Nova Terra Catering Events is our one first company that we create to insert people. Then that is all, and I hope that my English you can understand and your question. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, and Molve. Very good. And we're now going to have a chance for some questions about this very different experiences, but both working on this same important area of raising awareness. So please do put questions in through the chat if you'd like to. I kind of would like to start by asking, what's the most important learning point for raising awareness from your very different contexts? Obviously in Valencia there's a better known base of the social economy to build on, and kind of on support that goes back from organizations like the regional government for some time, whereas in the Ukraine we're starting from this kind of post-Soviet place. So but what are the key things that really make a difference? Emily, would you like to answer first?
What is the difference?
Yeah, no, what makes a difference in terms of raising awareness? What's the most important learning from your work?
The most important learning that the responsibility to exit to the crisis is responsibility of all, not only that the public administration, or not only the company only. we think that working together, we can achieve out to the crisis.
Thank you. And Polina, do you have an answer?
I have an answer to my mind. Raising awareness, to raise awareness, you need to touch your audiences. And to touch your audience deeply, you need to speak the same language, you know. So to touch youngers, you need to provide a youngers language and engage them in what they're interested in. To explain for local authorities about social economy, you need to speak on language of policy papers. And that's what I think. We need to learn our audience and to speak their languages with them.
Thank you for that. And
Jonathan, can I say something about that?
Yes, of course. Please do, Jordi.
Thank you, Jonathan. I just wanted to say that from the point of view of administration, we have to break a concept which is very general, especially in the companies and the economic world, which says that social economy is not efficient. And we have to break that, because we are speaking about economy, and this is not only a job, this is not only the due of administrations, because we have a lot of people in risk of social exclusion. No, we are helping and we are supporting real economy, and we are supporting very efficient companies and cooperatives, which are very useful for common society and also for the growing of the economy. And you know that sometimes, especially when your stakeholders and members of big companies or the status of the economical status, we have some problems to explain them that we are going is not only social work but also supporting real economy, very useful economy for the wealth of the region or the state. I just wanted to underline this because it's a difficulty that we find in all the meetings and the events when we are speaking about the social economy. The importance of social economy is not only for to integrate people, is not only for giving opportunities to these people in risk of social exclusion, but it's also a contribution for the commonwealth of.
So yeah, absolutely key in terms of being seen as a serious economic business that has a social focus, not just simply something that is social. And sort of building on that, we've got a question about the role of ownership and organizational governance issues. And we know that they are different for social economy enterprises, and how people kind of understand and engage with that. Polina, is there anything from your experience you'd like to respond to?
Yes, I think that the role of ownership is a part of your personal branding, which is essential in 21st century, because modern times make us to build our personal brands. And for social entrepreneurships in Ukraine, it's a vital. All our main social entrepreneurs build their own brand, and they are transparent and accountable among their customers and their audience. So I think the role of ownership is vital and essential in social enterprise.
Thank you. I think we are really tight for time, so we're going to move on to the third of our elements of this first session now. So thank you to all of you for your contributions. Great to hear about the important work that you're doing to raise awareness of social economy business models. what we're going to do now is we're going to move to look at cross-border cooperation. We know how important it is to learn from different places. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Often people reinvent square wheels, which is a bad idea. We want to be able to accelerate innovation. So it's really important to work across borders, to share experience and enrich our work and to build capacity. The Commission has been co-financing social economy missions. There was a call for proposals in 2020 that showed a big interest from local and regional authorities across Europe in working together on the social economy and to learn from each other. So we've invited some speakers now to share their experience about how they've succeeded in developing successful cross-border partnerships and to tell us a bit about their achievements. And we're going to start again in Spain with some experience from the Navarra region. And I would like to hand over now to Irujo Amezaga from who's a regional minister in the Navarra region. So over to you, Mikel.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jonathan. Thanks a lot to all the organizers for this event. I really agree with the last words that were said by the previous speakers, especially by Jordi, in which, we are talking about economy, we are talking, in our case, we are talking about industry. And industry can be competitive, respecting the social economy values, because indeed, we are speaking about values. This is very important. This a table that we are seeing in the screen, it really shows, that every single aspect of our life in the European Union is moved by values. And many of them, surprisingly, are really the ones that the social economy is incorporating in economy and in industry. While, we all understand about the human dignity, democracy in decision-taking processes, equality, pluralism, solidarity, and even, why not, the freedom to withdraw from organizations. All of these values are already implemented in the social economy as such. So the first message will be, it is possible. It is possible to have a regional growth. It is possible to have industry, competitive industry. And when I mean industry, I mean big companies competing in sectors as automotive or renewables, energies, so on, respecting these values. So this will be the first message in this. I think I passed through myself the slides. No? Yes. No. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So once, we have clear that we can compete in the market respecting these values, we also need to underline aspects that we all know. European Union, 2 million of different companies of social economy, more than 14 million employees working in the European Union in social economy companies. But still, even if we have European Union, even if we have internal market, we still are very fragmented. This is something that we already know, all the Europeans. So among many other elements, the European Commission created, formally created under the regional policy, the smart specialization strategies. This means that the smart specialization strategies is a process in which each region, you need to join the triple helix, all the different stakeholders of the region, and make a reflection of what you want to be as a region in the next years. And of course, it's a bet. In what sectors I will be investing and what kind of values I will be using for my regional development. So from 2014, it's mandatory for all the regions in Europe to have developed the smart specialization strategy. Otherwise, the European structural funds, especially ERDF, may be blocked by European Commission. But under this scheme of smart specialization strategies, I mean, it's not only about individual regions doing selfish reflections. Of course, it is done because for the first time ever, we have a clear description of what the regions are doing and how much we are investing in order to do that. So this is a map for the first time in history. The European Commission, the European Union, they do have a map of what we are doing, the regions in Europe, and what are our priorities and investments, I mean, so on. So under this umbrella of strategies in the European Union, the Navarra, the region I represent, we decided to include the social economy in the vision that we have as regional growth. So smart social economy is included in the smart specialization strategy of Navarra in business development chapter. So it is very clear. Just one element, it is there because among many other reasons, values are there. There is a concept that is territoriality, that is really embedded in the social economy. What I mean is that as regions, we are tired to see how we create companies. We know there are some entrepreneurs creating companies, and when the company get I mean, big enough and important, it usually comes a multinational and they bought it. So it is something that doesn't happen with social economy. And we do have big, large company of more than 1,000 employees playing industry in Navarra. So the reflection was, okay, social economy must be one of our priorities in order to develop the industry in our region. So we did so, and in parallel, smart specialization strategy, the European Commission created some initiatives like the thematic partnerships. So the smart specialization is 3 thematic partnerships. They did that in 2018. So we made the reflection why we don't go with another partners in order to create a smart specialization strategy thematic partnership together with other regions, and then we can think in a common investment project related social economy, and we will be focusing not only on Navarra but spreading the message together with other regions. We created in 2018 the social economy smart specialization thematic partnerships. It's hosted by DG Regio in this case, and our intention in that was precisely what is already in the slide. We really wanted to create a European value chain. So we wanted to see what we were doing related to social economy, how to foster social economy in our regions, what were our needs as a region, and put them together with other regions, like in this case are Lapland, Örebro in Sweden, Slovenia as a country, Emilia-Romagna in Italy, and Murcia. So we have been working quite hard in this. First one was a mapping paper. Secondly, we had also, of course, a business, how to create a common possible investment project among all us that it will be fulfilling the need that we have in different regions. And since the last year, I mean, we have been working in how to develop at the European scale business school of social economy. So it's what we call here the European Business School of Social Economy. Why? Because all that I have been saying since the beginning, all that Jordi was already saying at the end of the last speech, social economy is economy. So social economy for us is industry, is part of our business development as a region. So social economy industries may compete in the traditional market, but for that we need to train people. We need to be sure that in all parts of Europe we do have this training. We must be sure that apart from training, we need to have some hub or some element in order to make together, put together different stakeholders. So the business school is much more than just a simple school. It tries to be also a kind of hub of a different social economy. So And of course, clusters are also a big element. So I will end here just to sum up. Is about values, very important. It's about industry, social economy, industry. It's competitive in the regular market, and of course we are fans of planning. So smart specialization offers to all the regions this possibility to plan ourselves. This is very important, to plan ourselves how social economy must be developed, and put it together and cooperate with other regions in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mikel, and that's really great to hear how you're working with colleagues across so many other regions in Europe to build that common position through the smart specialization. I'd like to move on now to another area of Spain and introduce Annabelle Favreau, who's coordinator of European projects in DG Enterprise in the Junta de Extremadura, and we're going to learn a bit about the work that they've been doing with colleagues in Portugal. So over to you, Annabelle.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Okay, thank you very much, first of all, to the organizers, the ESER coordinators, for having given us the opportunity to share our practice. I represent the Direction General for Enterprise of the Regional Government of Extremadura in Spain. Our work is focused mainly on developing any kind of policies to support entrepreneurship and business development in our region. Extremadura, for those who may not know it, is a peripheral region which has borders with two Portuguese regions called Alentejo and Centro. And all three together, we make up the Euro region called Euro-ACE. Let's say that RDG is very active, and the cross-border program Interact 5A, and that we are currently participating in 4 projects with Portugal, dealing with young entrepreneurship, circular and green economy, digital transformation for strategic sectors. I don't know if you can see my presentation. I think it's not shared maybe, or can I check that? Should I share it myself or? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's go to the first slide. Okay, so now you have the reference of the project. And well, since 2015, we've been developing projects aimed at boosting social entrepreneurship in our region. But frankly speaking, since until 2017, when we began the FS project, Interact project, we began to really build a comprehensive approach on social entrepreneurship. It is co-funded by the Interact program, and our aim is to develop a cross-border ecosystem for social entrepreneurship and social economy with impact in the Euro-ACE region. For us, the value of cross-border cooperation is visible on both sides of the border, since it opens really new opportunities for business, for cultural exchanges also. But our will is really to go beyond even the Euro region, and this is why we joined the ESER community in 1918, and it has allowed us to connect with other European and international stakeholders, and of course also connect with the EU policies in that field. As we were talking about how to strengthen cross-border cooperation, I would say that, well, developing a cross-border project is not really easy. That you need, first of all, that would be our first recommendation on that part, to build a strong partnership. In the FS project, we are 6 partners, 2 from Portugal and 4 from Extremadura. We represent different levels of the social entrepreneurship ecosystem, the policy level at both sides of the border, also the support and entrepreneurship structures, but also social innovation experts and with an international background. What has been our starting point? to build our project because, well, we really needed to begin with common challenges because we had similar needs, and it's not about borders, it's about well, the Euro region and some other rural territories. I'm quite sure in Europe also share the same challenges. So we began, and I'm happy that Mikel mentioned the smart specialization strategies, because for us it has been one of the starting points to build our project. We have compared the smart specialization strategies of the regions that we were participating in this project, and identifying some strategic areas where we thought there was a lot of potential for social business development, such as the agri-food sector, sustainable tourism, or renewable energies. Second, we then focused on the social challenges that our regions had. We unfortunately suffer from depopulation. We are mainly huge rural territories. Well, if you see the figure, we are quite as big as Belgium and Netherlands together, but only 1.8 million inhabitants. And unfortunately, our youth are living to the big cities in our countries. And finally, we also analyzed business environment in our regions, since we share some particularities, some like that we have a high share of micro companies, also moderate innovation, lack of entrepreneurship mindset, etc. So from these facts and opportunities identified, we built the project to look for alternative solutions. And we definitely thought that social entrepreneurship and innovation could be part of the clue to face these challenges. So thanks to our project, we've been able to develop tailor-made solutions through cross-border cooperation. We were able to address strategic topics like sustainable tourism, collaborative economy, smart rural, or other priority sectors that we both share. Our aim was to contribute to building a common space for knowledge transfer and investment attractiveness across the border. To finalize my presentation, I wanted to mention some of the results of some of the tools we've developed during the 3 years of the project that will be running until the end of 2021. We have developed awareness raising activities, study visits to identify new business opportunities, created specific advice. There are some MOOCs available. They're only in Spanish, but well, you can have the translation easily in YouTube. And we've offered a specialized advice, customized for each entrepreneur, each company operating in the sector. Developed also free upskilling activities for social entrepreneurs that were already operating in that field and that sector in our regions, but who needed some help for consolidation. We've created specific tools to support the development of new business models that we think is really important. Launched crowdfunding campaigns. We have also rethought funding instruments to help well, the SMEs in that part that is always very difficult for them, that is access to finance. We've launched specific microcredits under the COVID-19 crisis to mitigate the impact that it could have on our companies. And one last thing that we think is really interesting also, we adapted the law for social economy at regional level and included some new legal formulas to have more, to be more flexible and to allow social economy initiatives to flourish everywhere. So we have a lot to share. We've learned a lot. We're willing to share this information and this knowledge with other regions. because we really think that it can bring new opportunities to our citizens and to give new opportunities to our rural territories. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Annabelle, for sharing and your offer to share some of the knowledge that you've been building up. And we can see, in a way, two different approaches to really building strong ecosystems for growing the social economy from these different regional initiatives. What we'd like to do now is to just look a little bit at some of the ways that people can tap in to learning on from a kind of regional basis. I'd like to introduce Mart Veliste, who's a thematic Interreg Europe policy learning platform, to tell us a little bit about the courses that exist, a kind of plethora of things that people can tap into. So over to you, Mart.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Ezer, for inviting me to speak here today. And thank you for the discussion we've had already so far. So indeed, I represent the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. I'm one of the thematic experts. And those of you who do not know, then Interreg Europe consists of two main pillars. One are the collaboration projects across Europe, and the second pillar is the policy learning platform that I will be talking about mostly. But Interreg Europe, maybe just to emphasize that in the current programming period, has funded roughly 258 projects of not cross-border, but cross-regional collaboration projects. And differently, perhaps, from the projects from other Interreg, like Interreg Portugal, Spain programs, the focus here is only on policy learning. So they do not really pilot actions, but they share best practices and tackle similar challenges by peer learning. And Interreg Europe has 4 thematic areas, which are the environmental resource efficiency, the low carbon economy, the research and innovation, and then where I come in is the SME competitiveness. So this is the main one pillar, but what I really want to talk to you here today and spark your interest and share the opportunities available for regional stakeholders and regional authorities or local authorities is the policy learning platform and the services that it provides. So on the one hand, the policy learning platform is, well, it's a website, it's an online hub where you can meet and link and connect with other regional policymakers, this community of peers. But also we have a rich database of good practices of various programs and initiatives that have been launched in regions that have shown very interesting or significant or innovative results. So the purpose is indeed, as Jonathan, you mentioned earlier, to avoid the square wheels, learn from what others are doing. And you can check out the good practice database and add your own good practices as well, which will be validated by me and my colleagues then. And then we have, of course, some webinar recordings and some of our previous research reports available as tools for everybody to access. Because the key point here is that the policy learning platform is open for everybody. You do not need to be a member of any Interreg Europe project. As long as you're a region and you are impacting somehow your local policy, the platform is available for you. And the main thing is the expert policy support we provide with our services. These services are free of charge, and I encourage you to look into them. So they're basically free options available. One is the policy help desk, which is you write us an email query of a question or something that you have, and we will get back to you with some relevant resources on how to go about with this issue. But then when it gets more practical and maybe more interesting are the matchmaking and the peer review service. So the matchmaking service is where you, as a region, you come to us with your local challenge. You say that you are working on this and you want some external help. And then we team you up with 2 or 3 members of our rich network of other regional stakeholders and experts. And we try to give you tailored advice on how to go forward with your plan. And these matchmaking sessions are these short 2-hour online or on-site meetings. We used to do them on-site as in the framework of larger conferences or larger events, but currently we're providing them online. And then if you really need even more in-depth input, then there's the peer review service, which is kind of like the matchmaking session only on steroids, that it lasts for 2 full days, and also either on site or we're doing them online now. And here, really, we go into deep detail of your regional challenge, the problem that you're tackling. We try to find you the 4 or 5 most suitable experts with prior experience or knowledge in working with a similar issue, and we bring them together and we spend 2 days on really discussing and sharing peer advice, tailoring to your specific needs. And just to give you 2 examples quickly, is that, for example, you might be a region that has a challenge of rural development and depopulation, and you think that somehow digitalization or supporting companies in digitalization might be a solution to this, but you don't know where to begin or what to consider, then this is a relevant challenge for us, and we will invite peers from other regions who have worked on digitalization, who have set up support schemes for companies on this, and we will have a nice discussion. Or you might be having a very concrete challenge where that you have some new funding available and you're setting up a new program to support, for example, social entrepreneurship in your region. But again, you don't know what sort of funding criteria to give, how to tailor it. Should it be a grant or a voucher scheme? Should it be some sort of loan system? But then we can go really concrete with this as well and bring together peers to see, okay, how to best use this financial resource that you now have. So it can be really very broad, but also very narrow. And both of these examples are basically based on real peer reviews that we have conducted in the past year. But going beyond the services and onto the topic at hand, so social economy, so in Interreg Europe, we've also done some stuff on this before. So Interreg Europe has around 6 projects working on the social economy. And based on this knowledge developed within the projects, in these project silos, we have brought it to a broader level through webinars and our own written reports, which we call the policy brief. So all of these materials are available for you. The slides will be shared with you. These are all hyperlinks. So really you can dig into this, the knowledge that has been gathered from our platform on the topic. And yeah, this is, as again, to emphasize, Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform is all about making those square wheels round and then, getting the machine working better, that we don't start from zero, but we start from, higher level based on the knowledge given to us by people who have experience on this before. So thank you for your attention, and hope to connect with you in the future.
Thank you so much, Mart. There's such a wealth of resources that are out there, really, for people to be able to tap into with the platform, and more widely with some of the programs from DG Regio and Interreg. Now we are a little bit behind schedule because of our technical problems at the beginning, and we had scheduled a comfort break for now. I think probably because of the time issues, we're going to carry straight on and move into the second session of the workshop, which is looking at the social economy canvas, which is a tool that's been created by the European Commission to support social economy growth, and it kind of works on 3 levels for social economy enterprises and indeed private enterprises that want to kind of work in a better way, for advisors to use, and for policymakers. And I would like to start by handing over to Karel Vanderpoorten, who's a policy officer at the European Commission in the DG Grow unit for social economy and creative industries. So over to you, Karel.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? That seems to be the case. Perfect. Dear ASER members, dear colleagues, very welcome also on my behalf. I'm extremely happy to find the time to introduce this nice topic. Many of you have already some experience or got at least already a slight introduction in the topic of the social economy canvas. But in the meantime, our work progressed a lot. Alessandro will come back to that and will give a small introduction in the features of the canvas, how it works for the ones who are not familiar, but also in the progress. We have done a whole series of testings with hundreds of enterprises, and we also invited people here to witness their testing, so you can see how it went in real life in practical way. So we are very happy that this work continues. Today we are really at a crossroad where we want to gain the knowledge from the testing phase together with the knowledge that was gathered yesterday in the hackathon, specifically dedicated on the future of the canvas and how to turn also the canvas into a digital tool. And when I say we are at the crossroad, that means not only in the development of the tool, but also in how we will, what we will get out of the tool as policy makers, but also as business, let's say, support organizations. So that is really interesting that we see the different possibilities, which in the beginning, to be honest, were not all embedded in the ambition of the tool. So the tool gets only a bigger, let's say, added value. So I'm very happy to see that. But that's enough for me. I think it's more important that we leave the real designers and experts on the floor. So Alessandro, please give us a good and decent but short introduction in the canvas, so we are all on the same track, and then we will listen to the people who have tested the canvas to see what their experience was. Thank you very much, Jonathan, and thank you very much, Alessandro, as well.
Super, Karel. Thanks a lot. I hope you can hear me all. I will share my presentation, and yes, it should be visible now. Can you see? Yes. Okay, so what is the social economy canvas? I'm going to focus my presentation more on like the high level understanding or the high level description, because then you're probably going to see a bit more of a detail, but also feedback from, let's say, those who have been working with them. And so at the very high level, the social economy canvas is a demo of a complexity informed tool. So it is a tool that allows to have in the same place several different dimensions, so that we can, in a certain sense, break down a problem or a situation or a context, and in this case, a business activity, into, let's say, the minimal components, the minimal dimensions, the key dimensions. And then we can build coherence by selecting the dimensions that are more appropriate for each one of these activities. If you are working in social economy, obviously you know that your business has a certain identity that is difficult to describe in a simple definition, or to place your business in a very specific category, especially if we use the normal business category. So the idea is to create a tool that allows to have not definitions, but or not definitions that are closed, but definitions that are more open, that enable. It's a tool that brings elements in relationships, so it's about flows, not monodirectional flows, not unidimensional flows, but again multidimensional flows, and then it's highly visual. What is it for? Well, like Jonathan was reminding us, it's for entrepreneurs, and in this case, it's really to support behavioral change, both at the level of the business, but also at the level of the ecosystem around the business. It is a support for agencies and investors in terms of providing a holistic perspective on, let's say, the activity that they want to support, so that it's clearer to understand what's special about that activity. And then it helps policymakers to think systemically. And why do we do this? Well, because maybe we need to start moving and thinking beyond profit as entrepreneurs. And we need to start. It's more referred to those who are still not part of the large community of social economy. And so, because that's exactly, or one of the dimensions that bring together all the different facets of social economy. Because we need to create a better ecosystem. So agencies in support of social economy and investors need to understand better how to create this ecosystem, how to make them sustainable and strong, and at the same time to allow policymakers to enable a beneficial future that exists in our present. This is a concept that is kind of also used in another initiative that I'm following, which is an European Bauhaus. So the idea is to understand that in our present there is already a lot of the future possible, and as policymakers we can enable that future by providing the conditions. So it's really about enabling rather than maybe creating the boundaries. And the root cause is in reality because if we look at our businesses, or most of our businesses, we're still not in the area of sustainability. Right? We're not sustainable. We cannot continue doing business as usual. The research questions behind this work. One is, can we imagine inclusive definitions? Because we know that social economy is very different in different parts of Europe. It's very local. And so creating maybe one specific definition risk of excluding others. The second research question is, can we move beyond goals? Goals are perfect to focus, but then at the same time risk to make us lose the contextual view. And so if we focus on an objective, we become very, very specific, and then we risk of really losing the connections. Can we find the right level of granularity, and can we inspire coherence? These are the research questions. And so what we started to do is, in a certain sense, use a metaphor, running the project. And we started to think, what if running a business was like planting a seed, or growing a tree, or growing a plant, which includes also a certain way of thinking about time and taking the time to make things happen. And so in support of the trees, if we're policymakers, we need to maybe start to create really the conditions like when you plant a seed. You will never know how the plant will grow, but you can control how the soil will be. So the conditions for the plant to be strong and to grow. And so that's the idea. And as a metaphor, I would like almost to say that after we had several iterations on the prototype, we started planting these seeds, and planting these trees. And you will hear the experience from some of those who planted those trees. And so these are the mappings of some of the 250 companies that went through the mapping process. And so you see over here that this is how they look like. This is what we call the identity mapping. And the identity is let's say, focused on analyzing the societal dimensions that contribute to create the value in that specific business, the environmental dimensions, and the economic dimensions. And it's 52 dimensions that, at least at this stage, we're asking where do we place our emphasis? What are the dimensions that are more relevant for what you're doing and how you're doing, or how you're running your business? And so you see that some companies have some of the dimensions light up. Some other companies are a little bit more full, more dimensions light up. But you can immediately see where these activities are essentially most active, or at least where they place their emphasis, their priorities. And at the same time, you can immediately compare, in a certain sense. If two companies or two activities are similar or not, in what are similar, in what they differ. You can imagine this, and this is probably maybe we'll get back to this later. But it's a way to it could be a way to search into these companies. Just selecting the different dimensions, you could start to see different companies popping up. You can use it to match maybe priorities at regional level from public administration, etc. I'm going to go a little bit fast. This is a little bit how the different trees look like. And then the second metaphor that we used is a bit the roots or the rhizomes, no? And the idea is here to map another part, which is more the ecosystem that allows the plant to grow, or that allows the tree to grow. And again, we're going to go very quick in all the different mappings, or a part of the different mappings that have been done. And maybe what I want to focus over here is that it's a codified way of mapping. So we have certain actors that are represented with certain icons, and there are 5 flows that connect them. And I'm not going to go more into detail. There are some tutorials, and I'm of course available then for further questions. But I don't want to take more time than I am allowed. Some of the good comments that came out, but then this will come out also from our friends that or the planters that will intervene afterwards. And you see over here that there is interest, and the participants found the tool useful, and of course there are also parts that need to be. Sorry, I just switched that. So those were the negatives, and these are the parts that are, let's say, the positive sides. So we need to obviously refine the tool, but then at the end of the day, some of the objectives that we have in terms of making maybe people understand what social economy is, registering the different dimensions, helping people to think in a more holistic way, that was reached. And so I would stop over here my presentation and then give the word to the rest of the sessions.
Thank you so much there. That was a really interesting, powerful introduction to this useful tool. What we're going to do now is we're going to look a little bit at the experience of how the canvas has been used, and basically there's been testing going on, I think, across 4 different organizations in a variety of different places have been testing this with local social economy enterprises across Europe. But we're going to focus on experience from 2 places. First of all, I'd like to introduce Laura Toth and Viktoria Soregi from the Impact Hub in Bucharest, and I know that you've been testing it not only in Hungary but in other places too. So over to you. I think you need to put your microphone on.
Hello everyone, it's very nice to be here and be part of this wonderful conference. I'm here with Viktoria. I don't know if you can also see her, but she's going to share the screen. Okay. So yes, we were part of the group of organizations that took part in this testing process. And altogether, it was a very inspiring and interesting experience. And our fellows in Bucharest and in Prague from Impact Hub Czech Republic and Impact Hub Romania did the same thing at the same time. We mapped 20 players in the field in each country. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the Hungarian experiences. Can you, oh, I can. Can you see the screen? Can you see my screen or the presentation?
Yes, I mean, okay. I can see.
Okay, great. So as you can see, the composition of the players in the Hungarian ecosystem, we reached out to 16 enterprises. They were from very different backgrounds, either coming from the nonprofit world or from the classic SME field, and some of them were in a very early stage without any legal entity, with a great social enterprise idea. And we also managed to include three public authorities, one regional municipality and 2 public agencies in the field of enterprise development or social enterprise support, and one and only existing Impact Investors Association in Hungary. So these were the ones that we reached out to. To be honest, all of them we knew from our work before, so it was not like a cold call, but they were actually pretty happy to be part of this experiment. And for us, it was a really good reason to contact them and get an update of what's going on in their organization. So this was the setup for the mapping sessions, and we did online and offline versions as well, and we must say that both worked really well. So it didn't really make a difference in terms of efficiency or the usage of the tool. The online sessions were working perfect. And we only did one-on-one mapping sessions. So we did not group the participants, but we used it as a one-on-one consultation tool. The sessions lasted from about 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours. And what we saw is that it was crucial to, in each case, focus on one initiative or one project that the player had or the organization had, because otherwise the complexity would have been difficult to manage with different stakeholders and different activities. Vicky, you can continue.
Yeah. Could you show me the next slide? So why was it useful? As Laura mentioned, it was useful for us because we could use it as a consultation tool. We could sit down with entrepreneurs and organizations and discuss their situation. It was useful because we could ask questions and they could answer our questions. So it was useful. That's why it was useful from our part, and that's what they said. We did a short survey after the canvas with each participant, and we got quite a good score. We got 4.58 because they said it was really useful. And what they said, why was it good for them? Because it was a good structure that they could capture the value and they could see the relation within the stakeholders. In general, the landscape part was they considered it was more useful, and because of the visualization as well, and it was very good. And they said it could be the landscape would be a good tool for onboarding. And they have a new colleague to join to the enterprise or to the organization. They could see the whole system at once, and it would be easier to understand how is it going on within the organization. And it was also useful them. They could see their values. It was easy to it was also easy to capture them in the tree. And what else? They would also said it good for strategy, and it was very good for communication and as a marketing tool, the landscape, to show their partners who they are. And it could be also very good tool for them, for participants, for team building, to do together the landscape and to do together the mapping, the tree as well.
Yes, so overall it was a very great experience. We put together a few recommendations for improvement of the tool for the future. As Victoria mentioned, the identity mapping was a bit less well received, or there was a bit of unclarity or a place for misunderstanding what is exactly the objective or the function of this part of the mapping, and the cards sometimes were a bit abstract, so they struggled how to interpret it for their own case, and with this it was a bit there was a big room for individual interpretation, so it makes it a bit harder to compare players in the field. Another small comment that we made was that for those who have an indirect impact, it was a bit more difficult to grab with the cards, but this was mostly relevant for public agencies and impact investors. But these are quite a bit of a details, and otherwise it was very well received and found as a useful tool.
And from our part, we consider it to use it as a consultation tool with new members, with new enterprises. We are running projects for women, and we are running projects for young social entrepreneurs. And I think it's throughout the consultation, it would be a very useful step for them and for us as well to move forward. So we are definitely going to use it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and isn't it just great to hear how the tool has been being used and getting such kind of positive results from colleagues in Hungary and from some of the other places that you mentioned in the Czech Republic and so forth. We'd like to now move to hear a little bit about the experience of testing in southern Italy. I know that Febe has been involved in working on this in Greece and Croatia, but we're going to be looking at the experience in southern Italy, and I'd like to introduce Giacomo Pinaffo of the Fondazione Comunità di Messina and Aurora Prospero of Febe to hear about your experiences in testing the canvas. So over to you.
Thank you, Jonathan, for an introduction. I will just provide a little bit of context, and then I will leave the floor to Giacomo. Yes, I work for FEBEA, the European Federation of Ethical and Alternative Banks and Financiers. So we've been involved in the Canvas project to test the Canvas tool in 3 countries, Italy, Greece, and Croatia. And so we have carried out 61 mapping exercises in these 3 countries in collaboration with our members who work in a close collaboration with social economy organizations at local and regional level. In general, the feedbacks we have collected from the 3 countries was that the tool was very useful, both for social economy organizations and for social finance providers who provide support services to these organizations. And in terms of things that could be improved, for sure, I would say the accessibility of the tool and the usability of some of the features. And it was stressed, let's say, the importance of the translation in local languages, because in some contexts, it's difficult to work with tools available just in English. This is, let's say, as a general feedbacks, and I leave the floor to Giacomo, who has carried out the testing in southern Italy for a more detailed feedback.
Perfect. Thanks, Aurora. Thanks, Jonathan, for introduction. So first of all, I'll try to be as quick as possible. Quick introduction. So slide 2. The foundation is the Messina Community Foundation is actually based in Sicily, and actually it leads a wider cluster of social economy organizations. We are actually also listed in among the 43 examples of clusters of social and ecological innovation identified by the EU Commission. Given this, we have engaged, slide 3, we have engaged in this process 11 organizations that are part of this wide cluster, and coming from different sectors, all engaged in the social economy, obviously, but we're talking about entities working in the renewable energy sector, in the social support sector, in the microfinance sector, etc. And also very highly differentiated in terms of legal form, dimension, and all these kind of elements. So quickly, the process. We had, as Aurora said, we had to translate all the tool in Italian in order to allow all the different enterprises to use them directly. And we transferred also the tool on an open account, let's say, making it available for the target enterprises, for the target organizations. And we organized several online sessions to explain the tools and the use of the tools in order to empower, let's say, these organizations, allowing them to test and try autonomously the tool without the need of an account, and trying not to influence them in the use of the tool. In this way, they did it by themselves, and then we collected all replies and maps and also the technical feedbacks. So I'll focus now just on the feedbacks, trying to provide some constructive elements. Focusing on the landscape tool, well, this has proved to be technically easy to use after obviously a first introduction and explication, and flexible. And above all, it stimulated an internal brainstorming and analysis process within the organization, which has proved to be very useful for the organization themselves. Then the results tend to be a bit confusing graphically, let's say, so it's hard to read and understand by anyone who has not directly created it. So it has more, at the moment, more an internal use, let's say. It would help, for instance, to have the option to select one kind of flow and hide all other flows, so that it's easy to understand one flow per time, let's say. Because there are quite a lot of arrows going around in the graph. Then two more technical elements that are some, let's say, add up, could be additional to the features. Flows are not originated exclusively by actors and entities, but often also by processes and activities. At the moment, flows originate in the graph from entities, from organizations, but actually also being part of a process originates a flow. For instance, an organization may receive a reputation, let's say, flow, thanks to the fact that it's part of a partnership, of a wide partnership, or a wide project. Therefore, that flow is not coming from an entity itself, but from a partnership or a project. And second element, the tool shows all the flows generated by organizations, but it would be useful also to show the stocks generated by such entities. I'll give you an example. If we take a social organization that receives a flow, a financial flow from another entity to support marginalized people, that entity, that social organization, may act as a pure intermediary, meaning that the flow passes through the organization and goes to the beneficiaries, or the organization could use that flow in order to generate a stock, create a stock, which in turn will generate other flows. I'll give you an example. We have part of these class in this cluster, the organization that have used financial resources, financial flows, to do, for instance, social economic investments in terms of creating renewable energy plants or renovating buildings that could in turn generate income that could be used then to support marginalized people. So in this way, the organization itself has been able to use the flow to generate a stock and then to produce itself its own autonomous, self-sustainable flows of resources to support marginalized families and people. So this is obviously a completely different approach from the one of being a pure intermediary, and from a strategic and political point of view, it's a different kind of approach, which could be shown, could be interested to be shown by the tool. Final slide on the identity mapping. It's has proved to be interesting and graphically fascinating because it's easy to understand. Still, obviously, social economy sector is way too heterogeneous, above all from an European point of view. So it's hard to use the same question for all the different kind of organizations that compose social economy sector. It would help, for instance, to get a few preliminary info from the respondent in terms of profit or non-profit, if it's a product or a service provider, legal form, etc. And then the tool could auto-select the main questions that are relevant for that kind of entity. In this way, it would be more focused. Some topics then are hard to classify on a good, bad scale because, as we saw, it's graphically it shows from brown to green color the scale. But some elements, such as the legal form, the ownership, may vary a lot, and it's not always clear to classify good or bad. And then there are some missing topics that could be added. Aesthetic qualities that could be promoted not only on the environmental and natural side, but also on the human production side. The several eco-design elements that could be integrated, because there are some that could be more to be integrated. And there is a lot of analysis on the environmental elements, but some more could be done on the social and economic impacts of social enterprise organizations. I would stop here as quick as I could.
Well, that's fantastic. Again, to get some really useful feedback from how the tool has been piloted. Now, as I said at the beginning, we want to make this workshop as interactive as possible. So if people have kind of questions for Laura or Viktoria or for Giacomo and Aurora, please put your questions into the chat. What we're going to do before we take questions is hear a bit about the results from the hackathon that Karel mentioned earlier. And that's been looking into the future development for the canvas, including how it could be digitalized and thinking about the power of being able to aggregate data that could be used for policy making. So to hear about the work that was carried out, I'm going to hand over now to Björn Pospiech from the Center for Open Social Innovation. So over to you, Björn.
Hello, thank you. I hope you can hear me, and I hope the echo is not too much. I'm right now in the Rosengarten in office over here, and it's the ceiling is right high, so I'm hoping that this works. So thank you very much for inviting me to this session. And yeah, Center for Open Social Innovation, you've seen me before on the main stage, hopefully, and we were delighted to support also on this one. We were also one of the projects that were for the piloting of the canvas available, and then while we did the piloting, we came up with an idea that we were organizing a hackathon, or not. We don't call it hackathon, we call it Impact Day, because the program is called European Impact Hero, and I will share my slides to explain a little bit more about what it is and what the results of our session were. So, European Impact Hero. The European Impact Hero is an accelerator program that focuses on European impact-driven ventures. So we work together with companies in order that to foster the big challenges of startups, of ventures all over Europe, just to support them evolving their ideas and challenging them in their business models, for example. This year we had the topics of climate neutrality, circular economy, and supply chain. And we had yesterday our European Impact Hero Day. This is a one-day boot camp that fosters really on solving for some teams the very most important topics they are currently facing. So we had yesterday 170 participants. We worked with with 20 teams. So this means that there are a lot of people who were involved. You see just some of them here on the picture. And we had volunteers this year from SAP, Volkswagen Group, and Microsoft. And so overall, the results for the startups, for the ventures were very good. They were very excited, really, that their problems were solved. But by this, we also mentioned, as we were part of the piloting group, that we could, of course, as this event was an official side event of the European Social Economy Summit, and we offered that we can also tackle a challenge by the European Commission, and this was then the canvas. So our goal was to focus on, as mentioned, the future. How could it look like? So this means also digitalization of the canvas. We use in our workshops, when we tested is a visual whiteboard, and it doesn't work that well because it's like also when you do it on paper, you have to transfer it and it's not automatically readable. And by this, we work together on this project with Venticon. This is a company, a startup from Karlsruhe, Germany here, and they have some kind of a tool already available that can do some of the things that are needed for the canvas. So this was the basic setup. And yeah, we faced then in our session, of course, going deep into everything would be too long because we had very deep and interesting discussions the whole day, 2 sessions. But I will focus on some of the hopefully more interesting outcomes. So when we started talking about the canvas and also like with ventures and other companies, organizations, it's like on the one hand, we have to tackle that the canvas should support the ideas, the goals of the European Commission, of the European Union, for example. So this means there can be included the strategic development goals, we have the action plan, and this should be integrated from our point of view, or as we discussed yesterday, it's not so integrated. There are currently some topics in the canvas, especially the impact tree, that are going to different directions, but not focusing on those goals, for example. So our idea was that if you have those goals defined, then you find actions where you can quantify them and also where the gaps are. So, and this can be then included in the impact tree and making a template for Europe, for the European Union, for the member states, for example. And then we can narrow this down to the regions, for example, cities, municipals, and other, and seeing, okay, if these are the goals for the European Commission, what can you contribute to those goals? And by making the goals, finding the right measures that tackle those goals, that see, okay, did we reach them? And then also try to find a target state, like, okay, this is for the template, this is where we want to go, and this is how it might look like. Then we can, on this level, also see what is the region contributing to the overall goals from the European Union. And then you can sum it up again and say, okay, like, when these are the goals and this is what the regions are doing, then we can also like scale up again, going down on the one hand, and on the other hand, scale up again and see, okay, did we reach our goals or not? And what could we do in order to reach them? Now, by knowing this is that really the tool that we are using, or we have streamlined also, they can do this already. Like if we would have been, or if we would enter like hundreds or thousands of canvases, they can already scale this up and make suggestions for cities, for municipals, for the European Commission. Hey, those are use cases you probably should dive in and try to do something. So this is already possible. What's missing on this side is currently that the right measures have to be defined. So on what kind of level would we like to measure? And then we have the second part, and this is more the bottom-up approach. So when we discussed yesterday with some of the organizations, they said, so what do we get if we fill this out? And this was a big issue also we had facing in our sessions when testing the canvas. It's okay to fill this out, but what do the organizations get out of it? And this is currently somehow it's a little bit missing, because the feedback we gained is that, yeah, of course I have something, and once I'm using it, then of course it's very valuable for creating a strategy. But you have to first start. And normally organizations working in the social field, they have different focus and they don't focus on strategy normally. So this means there is a big barrier to just jump in. And this, from our point of view, now coming back to the canvas, so if we have now the regional impact tree and mapping, then we can go down to organizational level and see what can organizations in that region contribute to the region's goal, and by this also contribute to the European goals. So then we can include, like on the regions level or the European level, programs that the organizations can contribute to. But as mentioned, there need to be somehow an incentive for the organization. So what do they get? And here are some ideas. As mentioned, we have discussed very lot about those topics. What we've came up with, for example, there could be some kind of an accelerator program where this tool, the canvas, is used within. So they get, like, for example, free consulting, supporting creating them. There might be a learning system that makes it easier. And because if you just go on the or on some page and you start trying to create such a canvas, you're totally puzzled, but because it's not that intuitive yet. It might become in future, but somehow it's kind of also that just you have to know the notation and all these stuff. So this makes it then easier for them to jump in. So second might be that this might also be a first step in some kind of funding applications, saying, so if you fill this out and it's very good and you contribute, then you have already done the first step, and then we are going to take a deeper look in what you want to do, what you want to have funded. Number 3 is, of course, organizational development, and this is again what the organizations will get, and this is also what we are facing, whether we're working with non-profits or for-profits. All of them said after filling the canvas, I was like, okay, now we know where we have to tackle a little bit more to become more sustainable, for example, and to work more for our customers, for example. So this is, by fact, this supports your organizations all over Europe. And number 4 is there needs to be some kind of an easy-to-use tool that supports the whole process, not only one part of it, but also, like, if you take, for example, the tree, this might become some kind of filtering and also a search engine for the mapping later on. So you can combine those tools, and by combining them, you can also later on measure whether the organization, for example, sticks to their impact goals. And then you can also aggregate this up and also give some kind of advices or ideas for regions and European Commission. And then we have some kind of, also it needs to be that you can analyze it, and also like teamwork, because currently this is also not combined. But as mentioned in the beginning, there are already bases for such a tool available. So this is feasible that we can do something like this. And what we do now, we had yesterday the hackathon or the impact day, and then this night we scaled up the first results, and now we will combine them and then give them to the commission and discuss with them deep, okay, what could be the next steps on this? And being this said, I'm already done with what I wanted to tell you.
Thank you so much, Björn. Sounds like you've had a very busy day yesterday. And I'd like to kind of open things up now to some questions and discussion. So if people have got questions, I've seen there've been 1 or 2 that have gone into the chat that have been kind of answered as we've been going along. But if people have got questions for Björn or for our other speakers about the use of the canvas, please do feel free to ask them. I'd like to just go back to the kind of testing that took place in Hungary and in Italy. And I'd be very interested to know a bit more about the kind of benefits for the people who had been testing the canvas, particularly the social economy organizations. I wonder if it's possible, Laura or Viktoria, to just give a little bit more information about how it changed things for people.
Yeah, well, I think we wanted to grab that in the usefulness of the tool part. So I think they found it beneficial is the joint thinking process. So it is always nice to have a different perspective on what we actually doing, what they are actually doing, and that's what they valued most. Like, okay, well, I haven't thought about that from that perspective, or yeah, that's a good idea to group the stakeholders and try to use a standard coloring, and we can now have actions planned based on the visualized map, or just give ideas on where they can perform better in their everyday operation, or who should they contact to do better in that regard. So strategic and overall new insights, as well as little details about their everyday operation and challenges. That was the most beneficial part.
That's great. And how about Giacomo and Aurora? Have you got something to add from the perspective of what happened in Italy?
Well, from my side, I'd say that I also said before, also from my colleagues, yes, indeed, the act of thinking, of sitting down and thinking about the structure of the network of flows and organization has been very useful, because often such organizations are very focused on what they do, on the activity they run. And they lose a bit control of all different flows and relations they have with different stakeholders. While when they have to face a blank page and they have to put there all the details and elements that makes this network work, then it's useful for them, because finally they better understand, well, let's say, at least, yes, they see in a better way the whole picture of the framework where they work, which is helpful also from an internal point of view to better plan their activities in the future.
So some very clear benefits there for the users of the canvas, and having that kind of wider perspective. Now, you made some suggestions, Giacomo, about improving the way the canvas could work, and about how things don't always flow from actors, but that can come from processes. Would you say that that's the main recommendation for change that you're making, or are there one or two other things that could really make a difference?
No, I would say that these are not the main. The tool can obviously work also without that element. When we were testing it, we were also thinking about potential additional features that would make the tool even more complete, let's say. But that's not fundamental. Still, we identified a couple of spots, let's say, that are specifically important for the social economy organizations, that, if possible, could be very useful to add them to the tool. But I also know that technically, given the tool that has been used up to now, so the Draw.io tool for the landscape mapping, is not so easy because it may get a bit too complex. So there I leave the floor, let's say, to the technical experts in order to see how additional features could be added without adding too much complexity to the use of tools, so without decreasing the usability.
I guess that's the balancing thing in terms of the complexity versus the kind of usability. And Laura, from your point of view, are there any kind of things that really stand out for changing the way the tool works? Okay. Hi, Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry, I'm back. So as mentioned earlier, yes, we made a few suggestions, mostly regarding the impact tree or the identity mapping. And of course, all what Giacomo mentioned, all the technical solutions, there were some minor recommendations, like how they can access it, or what is the actual output of the sessions. And like, these are minor details which I think it's easier to handle. And also we, as mentioned in the recommendations, we pointed out a few content-related part, and we could very much agree with Giacomo's input as well, and the language issues as well. So there were a few of these minor things that could be built into a new version of the tool, definitely.
Great. And coming back to you, Björn, and the work of the hackathon yesterday, and the idea of being able to really use the tool for kind of policy and aggregating the data. What's the kind of big thing that would have to happen next to make that work from your perspective? You need to put your mic on.
I thought I have hit the button, but unfortunately I didn't. So thanks for the question. What we figured out is that some kind, especially also the tree, but this was also an outcome of our piloting project, is that it needs to be some kind of updated. So there are some, at least for Germany, we had we had to test it for Germany and Austria. There are some parts that are not so relevant. For example, it doesn't matter what kind of organization you are. This doesn't change anything on the tree. But other topics like focusing on people development when you create some services are missing from our point of view. So the next step from our point should be that you take this canvas again, or at least don't throw it away. Just try to align it with the goals, for example, of the European Commission. And we tried a little bit yesterday already, and most of them are already filled up. So it's very, very good already aligned, but you have to take another look at it and align it, and then you can start from this, seeing how to measure those items, and then you can go down and also implement it into some kind of a tool, and then it will become very helpful for both policymaking and also startups, ventures all over Europe. Now you are muted.
Thank you. I'd like to bring back Alessandro Rancati now, who's the sort of architect of the canvas, perhaps to respond to a couple of the points that have been made about how things might be able to go forward in the next step. And we also have a question from Klaus Sibt about did you ever think to use the sort of multi-level perspective from transition theory for the mapping exercise? How has that influenced the tool at all in the way that you've developed it? And where are we going next? That's the big thing. I think you're on mute as well, Alessandro.
It's a trend. Sorry. Okay. So the last question. No, we didn't think of using that, but it's for sure let's say an approach to look at. On the several different comments, I would say that the good news that I see is that most of the comments ask for improvements and don't ask for throwing it away. So it means that the base is good. We all. I mean, the canvas is really the result of work of a lot of people. It's not just myself. I'm not. I've been coordinating and working a lot on this, but so it's been seen from different perspectives. And like you were saying, there is a delicate balance between what can be done and what is usable and what then it could be additional, no? And also the idea that people may want to try the canvas, but then maybe complex, or it may be that they see that it takes time, etc., etc. So I think that one general conversation or one general comment is that this is a tool that is not for getting things done in a very quick and dirty way. Okay, so the thinking, the decision of take your time to address the different parts and so on is part of this process. So it's not a, let's say, something to go fast. It's actually a tool to slow down. So in a certain sense, you need to be willing to slow down, which is at times also part of doing business in different ways. We need to, for sure, have a better reflection on the identity in terms of how the key questions are selected or the key dimensions are selected, how they are prioritized, how they are suggested, etc., etc. And I agree that a lot of the usability can be heavily improved. At this moment, on top of it, I mean, the whole exercise started before COVID, and the idea was to really go and have sessions presentially, so that a lot of the problems also at times get solved in the interaction among people. Here we had the IT platform, etc., etc., and so it's a bit. But what I take is that all the comments and all the recommendations make absolute sense. We need to probably prioritize and work now in the short term to fix what it's fixable immediately. Release the version number 1, and then have a better reflection on what comes next. And this is not really only the work of the JRC. It's a reflection that we need to do together with the DG Grow, with Karel, etc., etc. So that's a bit the fact. So taking in all what is possible, making the changes right away for all that it's possible, and then reflecting on the big next step that comes after.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Alessandro. Really exciting, and we'll watch this space closely for the next step. But it's clearly a useful thing, and I love the idea of slowing down. I think that's something that we all need to do to be able to kind of reflect and get that perspective and different perspectives on what we're doing. Now, earlier on at the beginning, I mentioned the idea of these social economy diaries and about thinking. I hope everybody's been thinking of something in their personal lives where the social economy has had a really big impact. I'm going to hand over to Karel now to explain a bit more why I asked you those questions and to tell us a bit more about the social economy diary. So over to you, Karel.
Thank you very much. Alessandro, can I introduce, or do you want to have a small intro on the diaries as well? Just to be sure. You're muted.
You can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So why did we ask you to think about a story that shows the power of social economy? Because we have started another very interesting project together with Alessandro and the GRC that wants to collect stories to gather also more information behind the stories about, let's say, the policy needs, but also the narrative on social economy. How should we approach social economy more in a wider context, in a policy context, and also how should we alternatively collect data about the needs and the opportunities of social economy organizations and enterprises. For this, we work together with some pretty interesting people from SenseMaker. They use a tool that collects data on the basis of a story. So that's why we need your story. Normally in the real users event, we would be there physically with iPads. We would approach you in the venue, in the area. We would ask you, can you just give me your story? We will fill it in. But now that is not possible. So we need to go through this exercise together with you. So I hope you have thought about the story, because I have the intention to do it just together with you right on the spot. Maybe I can share my screen because I actually made already a story from my side, so it's very easy to understand how it works. It only has, I did it in maybe 10 minutes, so it's very easy going. I will first share my screen. So. Does that work? Okay, I will go here. Can you see the social economy diaries page? That should work. No? Yes? Can somebody just speak because I cannot see the other screen anymore. That's why. Jonathan?
Yes,
you can see the... Okay, perfect. So
stories with a purpose.
Yes, exactly. That's what we need, stories with a purpose. This is our homepage. There you can find all the information. So why we are doing it, why we are compiling stories, where is the background of the idea, who we are targeting, basically everybody who is engaged with social economy, member of a social economy enterprise, who was the policymaker to support social enterprise, but also just a client if you buy something in the shop, if you're a member of a cooperative, and so on and so forth. We have this tool in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different languages. I just forgot to copy the page, so you have it here. And if you go to that page, you can just select your language. So I will just do it in English. I of course opened it already, so that will be ready, and then you will arrive at the social economy diaries page. So here you have a short explanation about what are the social economy diaries, a collection of experience, as I already said. It's not a formal description, so it can be very open, just a personal, it can be a fait divers, and just a small thing that you experience, for example, in an event, or that you were touched by, or that you had a certain support service received from a social economy organization, somebody that helped you, that was a part of a social economy organization, and so on and so forth. So before we start, you just agree and accept, of course, the terms. And go to the first page, and you see I just wrote my experience in maybe 3-4 lines. I will just read it for you so you have an idea what is my story specifically. So since we became part of a car sharing cooperative, we are very proud and happy to be a part of the business and get involved in how such a business runs. We decided to sell our car and switch completely to the mobility service of the cooperative. This doesn't only save us money, but we also contribute to clean air, less cars in the city, and the profit of our cooperative goes to ecological or charity projects. By the way, it's so nice to say our cooperative because we jointly own it. So this is my story, very simple. It explains how I become a member, what is the benefit from me, and why I think this is really a power of social economy. I just give it the title. So we share cars, a business, and clean air. This is information about where the initiative takes place. So that's in Belgium. It exists for 3-5 years, very easy going. The level of the scope of the initiative, it's at the regional level. So you go through all the questions. There are, I think, some 27, if I'm not mistaken. Very easy question, and the questions are always referring to your story. So don't think about, for example, your activity as in your professional life, but the questions are really about your story or the initiative that you're telling in your story. You go to the next page, which is pretty interesting because here we have the triads. Triads are basically choices between 3 values that you give to a certain question. For example, in your story, what influences the social economy initiative most? So policies, laws, and regulation, money, or people. I put it here between money and people because in the car, let's say mobility industry, a lot of capital intensivity is present, but also you need a lot of people to drive the process. It's a cooperative. People jointly invest in those cars. People are also needed to use those cars. And as a cooperative, the people are at the heart of the business. In your story, the social economy initiative is grounded in future opportunities, current needs and issues, or culture and tradition. As this is about clean electric car mobility, it's about future green opportunities, but also its current needs and opportunities. So that's why I choose this path. So like this, you have a whole set of triads. not too much as well. So it's very easy. It allows you to think a bit about your initiative and your story, and that is the way how you respond. The next question is just sliders between two different values. So in your story, people driving the social economy initiative are motivated by intrinsic motivation or financial or external rewards. In this case, it's really the intrinsic, the motivation to set up the cooperative, to take part of the cooperative is really to have a better or clean air. Imagine that the cooperative would be, for example, very cheap for me. I save a lot of money, then I could, for example, do like this, or I put it in a half. This is really like a personal appreciation. That's the power of the social economy diaries, that a difference, one story, for example, shared by different people might have completely different inputs, and that is really the added value for us. So a set of sliders you can use over here. And then we go just to some unique questions. So what could improve the situation in your story? Then you have several options you can choose to. I said, for example, access to new markets. So for example, how the cooperative can find new businesses to have shared the cars with, but also funding. It's really capital intensive industry. So we really need a lot of investment capital to run the cooperative. So some questions about EU support, the sources of the funding. If you don't know, you can say not applicable, because personally, I'm not super engaged in the running and the business of the cooperative. I'm just a member and a user, so I do not always know. But if you look, for example, at the website or you get some information, you can find out. But if you don't know, that's not an issue. So then we go to the last questions, which are 28. In not 27, because the last question is about you. So I wrote my story as a part. So you're part of an organization, you're part of the government, you're a representative of the organization, and so on. So that's it. If you then just allow us to share your story afterwards in our policy narrative, or you just want to keep it for you, then you click on one of those and you submit. Jonathan, that's all from me.
Thank you. And isn't that an exciting way to capture things? Really important. So I urge everybody after this session to go online and start filling in your stories. I'm going to fill in one myself.
Maybe you can fill in a story about today.
Maybe
your story can be this session. That's the power of social economy, you know.
And it has been such a wonderful morning to be with so many members of the SR community and hear some of the really powerful and fantastic things that people are doing across the regions. I was also really glad to hear earlier on that the Secretary General of the OECD, Angel Guerra, cited SR as an example of good practice in his speech. So we know there's some really great things going on when we've got endorsements like that. I'm going to hand over now to Patrick Klein, who's going to say some concluding remarks. Over to you, Patrick. I think you need to put your mic on. Can we hear Patrick? I think you're on mute at the moment still. I'm afraid we can't hear you, Patrick. We've been having a few technical problems this morning, so short of doing some sign language, Patrick, I think we're a bit stuck unless somebody can press the right button to get you in. I think it still looks like you're on mute there.
I think it's okay.
Hello, fantastic. Over to
Difficult. Anyway, it's important to be there, and can I say good afternoon now from Mannheim? So very happy to join you. I mean today, listening, to the discussion, and indeed it's it's an exciting moment, I would say, to be with all of you and to follow, what's happening, all around the place, about the social economy, and to meet again, the let's say, the social economy stakeholder and the other community. And thank you to give me, the floor, for this, for some concluding remarks, for this session. And I would like first, to thank all of you who participate in this European Social Economy Region workshop. And we have seen that during these 3 hours, we discuss a lot about practices, success stories, coming throughout Europe to boost the development of social economy. And maybe I would mention 3 outcomes that for me are very important. First of all, I would say that we have seen, via all this discussion, via all this presentation, that the social economy really provide concrete response to local issue, to which neither the market nor the public authority are able to respond alone, like support the people in difficulties, the fight against exclusion, health, social economy, and cultural inequalities, preservation and the development of the social link is really important, for the actors as well. I think that what was important to mention is that the social economy is really gives the key for the green and the digital transition, especially to ensure that this transition really happen in a fair and inclusive way. The second comment that I would like to highlight is the fact that the social economy is really the right instrument for territorial resilience. And for social economy, structures like cities, region, policy represent key players that helps experiment new projects, new ideas to get out of the crisis. But we want this experimentation to be successful and to boost territorial development. I think that all stakeholders, may they be from the public or from the private side, should work closely with social economy player. I think that the keywords for this ESA session is really about co-creation process. And the co-creation process is key, especially in this phase of economic recovery and that we are now entering, and to build an economy that works for the people. Last comment, and this is exactly what we have seen, in the canvas, is that the social economy is really expanding, its value and principle to mainstream businesses. And I think that we clearly need to continue this fertilization. This canvas, as it was mentioned, explained, for me, should really become a useful tool for entrepreneurs to support the development. And we need development agency, professional organization, regional and local authorities, to really to do the utmost, to make mainstream business understand that they have to be more sustainable. And I think that the social economy value, via the canvas, can be really, the right instrument. So, as the motto, of our conference, I've say, let's use and let's continue to use, the ESA community to be inspired, to make contact, and to leave impact. So thanks a lot. I think it was a great discussion. I really invite you to continue to follow us. We will have a great workshop still this afternoon, tomorrow, high-level speakers, and really a good continuation of this journey, with us, for the social economy. Thanks a lot.
And thank you, Patrick. I've thoroughly enjoyed the session. It's been great to hear from so many interesting speakers about the important work that's going on through ESA. A real privilege to learn more about what's been happening. We saw the power of how public procurement can be harnessed. We saw the importance of awareness raising. We saw how cross-border learning is so important, and there are a huge amount of resources that are available for that. We heard from Anna, the head of unit, about the new action plan and the call that's coming out. So there are real opportunities. I'd urge everybody to keep looking very closely at what's happening and to join in. And for people who aren't ESA members, there will be the chance to become part of the community when the Commission issues some new calls. So keep an eye out for that. So I'd like to close now, really, and give a big thank you to all of our speakers. We really appreciate the effort that you've made to be with us today and all the preparation. And you know, we've had one or two little technical hitches, but I don't think that's really made any difference to getting across the power of what everybody's doing. I'd like to thank the colleagues in the European Commission for actually putting this on and working so hard to make it a success. For the technical support team, there are people that you don't see on the screen, but they're there helping people, helping me with this new technology. So thank you. But thank you all, most of all, for everyone who's taken part and for taking the time to be with us this morning. And I urge you to enjoy the rest of the summit and engage as much as possible, and hopefully see you again soon. Bye-bye now.